Hello and good evening. I am so very excited to see all the wonderful faces here at our informational session for our new Bloomfield Library. I see a lot of the library committee here. Welcome to all our citizens. I'm so very excited that we're here taking part in what's going to be an amazing project for our town. My job tonight is pretty easy. I'm going to introduce our chair and our vice chair of the Bloomfield Library Building Committee. Our chair is Mr. Gregory C. Davis, Esquire. Greg is a native of Hartford, a graduate from Tufts University and Georgetown Law. Greg currently serves as counsel in the Strategic Resolutions Group. His responsibilities include, but are not limited to, managing and resolving complex cumulative injury litigations related to asbestos, hazardous waste, and other toxic torts. Complex, right? That's the important word out of that sentence. Greg currently serves as the president of the Hartford Public Library Board of Directors, 2015 to present. He served as president previously from 2009 to 2011. He has been on the Hartford Public Library Board since 2006, and he received the Connecticut Library Association's 2017 Edith Nettleton Volunteer of the Year Award. In addition to chairing our building committee, Greg has served on the Library Building Committee for Hartford, the Albany Avenue branch, and the Park Street branch. I wanted to talk about his background to let you know that the captain of this ship is well equipped to take on this project. And his vice chair is Mr. Mark Weisman. Mark has been a Bloomfield resident for 27 years. He's a licensed architect and has served on the Winterberry Golf Course Building Committee, the Laurel and Metacomet Schools Building Committee, the 2016 Library Building Committee, and the Human Services Facilities Building Committee. So we have two very competent men who are leading our Bloomfield Prosser Library Building Committee. And I am excited about what's going to take place not only tonight, but throughout the course of this project. Our library systems will be enhanced and Bloomfield will be much better for it. So thank you for being out here tonight. Thank you for your participation. Thank you to our Taisu Kim partners. We know that it's going to be a phenomenal evening. Please write your questions down and ask as many questions as possible. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to our library board chair, Mr. Greg Davis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening and welcome again to everyone. A big shout out to the mayor for her engagement and support, along with the entire town council. My name is Greg Davis, as you've heard, and I am the chair of the Library Building Committee. I want to thank our presenters and all of you for joining us this evening. Let me start by introducing the rest of the panelists. You've heard about Mark Weisman, our vice chair and the former chair of the Library Building Committee in 2016. Next is Elizabeth Lane. Elizabeth, raise your hand there. Elizabeth is our Bloomfield Public Library Director. She's been in that role since September 2019. Prior to that, Elizabeth was the director of the Willimantic Public Library. And prior to that, she was the manager of the Albany branch of the Hartford Public Library. And in fact, I met Elizabeth in 2016 during my time as board chair of the Hartford Public Library, and she is a fantastic librarian, and we're very happy and fortunate to have Elizabeth in Bloomfield. Next is Whit Eaglehart from TSKP Studios, formerly Taisu Kim Partners, located in Hartford and Boston. TSKP is one of the top architectural firms in the Northeast, with a local, state, and national reputation, with a heavy focus on schools and libraries. Some of their work include the Yukon Hartford Library, the Dwight branch of the Hartford Public Library, the Wilton Public Library, and the newly constructed Park Street branch of the Hartford Public Library in Hartford. Also, TSKP Studios did the Mandel JCC, and they're involved in a number of buildings on college campuses. They're at Yale, Colgate, Central Connecticut State University, the University of Hartford, Connecticut College, Middlebury, and many more colleges and universities. Also joining us on the panel tonight is Dave Patrick. Dave is the president of Downs Construction. Downs is currently providing cost estimating services. Many of you have either known or seen Downs Construction. They have been in the construction industry for more than 80 years, and their list of projects are too voluminous to go through, but I will just mention a couple of their local projects. They did the Hartford Times building in downtown Hartford. Here in Bloomfield, they did the Human Services building. They've done the Park Street Library branch for the Hartford Public Library, involved with the Weaver High School renovation project and the MLK school project. So just again, a welcome and thank you to our illustrious panel members. And again, thank you to the mayor and our council. I want to just give a brief overview of our charge and to share what the committee has been doing since our first meeting, which was July 29th of 2020. The building committee has been charged with recommending a new library via renovation, expansion, or other alternatives. The objectives of the building committee are to effectively, economically, and responsibly maximize library space and bring a state-of-the-art 21st century library system to our town. As many of you know, the Prosser Library was built in 1965 and McMahon in 1972. Prosser has historically been subject to severe flooding, and it has numerous physical and operational challenges. Similarly, McMahon Winterberry has space limitations and is outdated. I believe to a person that we could all agree that it's pretty axiomatic that our library system needs updating and our residents deserve better. There was a library building committee assembled in 2016. As you heard, Mark chaired that building committee, and that building committee focused on a new and improved Prosser. However, the question about a new library never made it to referendum. Instead, the town approved the Human Services building and the Public Works building at referendum. Our building committee is comprised of 16 members. We have 9 voting members and 7 ad hoc members. The building committee is rich in talent and experience. We are diverse with respect to gender, race, political affiliation, vocation, and age. The depth and breadth of our building committee is far reaching. For example, we have 3 Bloomfield Public Library Board of Trustee members, including its chair and vice chair. As you know, our Bloomfield Public Library Director, Elizabeth Lane, is on our committee. There are 3 librarians, 2 members of the 2016 Library Building Committee, including its chair, 2 members of the Human Services Building Committee, a member of the Board of Ed, 2 school administrators, a representative from the University of Hartford's President's Office, a parent, a member of the Bloomfield Economic Development Commission, and a local business owner, our town leisure services director, and the purchasing and risk manager, along with our mayor. And then we have an attorney and the chair of the Hartford Public Library who has worked on 3 previous building projects for libraries. Our goals are very simple, to be transparent, inclusive, and fiscally responsible, and to have a successful referendum pass in November. The building committee to date has had 20 regular meetings. I apologize, I can't turn this on. We've had 20 regular meetings and 3 special meetings. We meet every 2 weeks, and our meetings are open to the public, and we welcome the community's participation throughout the planning process. We have 3 subcommittees: the External Outreach and Survey, Program and Space Planning, and the Construction Manager subcommittees. Those 3 committees have met individually for a total of 30 meetings. I say all of this to say that we have a great team of hardworking and committed committee members. I can't thank them enough for their hard work and their input, and most importantly, their time. As you'll hear from TSKP Studios, the building committee considered 8 potential sites. We looked at Prosser, the Town Hall, Wintonberry Mall, 330 Park, McMahon Wintonberry, Blue Hills Cottage Grove, Seneca Road, and Park Brook. A short list of feasible studies was developed through a process including the town planner, the building committee, with technical analysis from TSKP. Based on our research, discussions, and feedback, the building committee is recommending that the entire library system be improved and modernized. In short, we can't do one without the other. The building committee is also recommending a new build at the current Prosser location and an addition/renovation of the existing McMahon Wintonberry location. We are very excited about the work that we are doing. And again, we want to continue to welcome the public into the process. It matters and it's important. And I want to thank you for your time and attention, and particularly for being here this evening. And next, I want to turn it over to Elizabeth, the director of the Bloomfield Public Library, who is going to share some about our outreach efforts as well as some of the services being offered by the library. Elizabeth?
Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth, and I thank all of you for your interest in Bloomfield Public Library and this project. From January 22nd to March 5th of this year, a library survey was shared with the public through both digital and physical channels. The survey was created with the help of consultants, Alan and Leslie Berger of Library Development Solutions. They submitted both a full report and an executive summary of their findings, both of which can be found on the Library Building Committee's page of our website. I will be giving an overview about what we learned from the survey. This survey was created using SurveyMonkey, and the initial digital distribution was sent to 5,952 email addresses via the library's new email newsletter. This was followed by digital shares of the newsletter by the library and library partners. We also extensively promoted the survey through our Facebook and Instagram platforms and on every page of the library website. Additionally, it was promoted through the Bloomfield School District and via a public survey announcement by Mayor DeBeetham Brown. Here you will find an image of the survey announcement that was shared many times in the Bloomfield Messenger and through social media. You will see that we offered many ways to complete the survey, including online, through a QR code. We had them sent to every resident in Bloomfield, and you could also call the library, either location, and a staff member could take it and transcribe it over the phone for you. The purpose of the survey was to learn more about how Bloomfield felt about their current library system and what they wanted to see from their library in the future. The survey was not intended to serve as a public referendum on any aspect of a future library. We needed information from the public to help inform library planners, which includes me, library staff, our elected Bloomfield Public Library Board of Trustees, the 16-member Bloomfield Library Building Committee, and the Town Council. A print copy of the survey, here you see the front and back of it, was mailed to every delivery address in Bloomfield. I want to thank the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities for printing over 10,000 of these surveys for us at no cost, and for BPL staffer Joni Selmer for fitting it so nicely onto 2 pages. A copy of this survey also went out to every visitor to the libraries, including those using our curbside and technology services. Incentives were offered to encourage participation, including gift cards to Stop and Shop and an iPad. Please join us in congratulating the recipient of our library survey drawing prize of an iPad Mini Peggy Lawrence. And many thanks to the Friends of the Library for providing the funds to purchase the iPad mini. All of our outreach efforts paid off. Over 1,700 people filled out the survey. For comparison's sake, 624 surveys were received for the Human Services Project in 2018, and just 360 surveys were received for the Library Building Project in 2016. There was an article in the Hartford Courant in February about the town of Farmington planning for a June referendum for a $137 million high school replacement project. They mailed surveys to 11,600 households and received 1,111 responses back. The survey consultant for that project stated that the percentage of surveys received back was the highest they had in 20 years, highest they had seen in 20 years of doing surveys. This shows just how successful Bloomfield's efforts were in garnering feedback. Of the respondents, the largest percentage were people 65 and over, coming in at 1/3 of the respondents. The second largest group at 30% were the under 17 crowd. The loose age group was the 18 to 29. Please come to our meetings to hear. With the question, what would you like to see in a new or updated library? The respondents' leading choices included a cafe, rooms and group workrooms, group study spaces, as well as a dedicated teen space. When asked, do you have a Bloomfield Public Library card? 65% of respondents did. This was interesting to us, and we were glad to have 1/3 of our respondents not be library users. It really helps inform the process. While many of our respondents reported only using Bloomfield Public Library, those who used outside libraries used West Hartford, Hartford, Windsor, and Simsbury primarily. Reasons for using other libraries included easier parking, better browsing, better hours to attend a program or to pick up a specific book, along with a preference for more modern and easier to use facilities. When asked, what do you like most about Bloomfield Public Library? I'm very proud and not surprised to report that the top reply to this open-ended question was the staff. Staff was mentioned over 420 times. And the other things that were of note were people liked our hours, our locations, our programs, and the ability to engage with other people in our community. To this question, we had over 1,500 comments. What do you like least about Bloomfield Public Library? The top responses related to parking, outdated and space-constrained facilities, limited technology, insufficient children's space, moldy odors, old bathrooms, lack of outdoor lighting, limited accessibility, and a lack of Sunday hours. Of all of the questions on the survey, this is the one that stuck out the most to me. The first part of this question read, in your opinion, how important is Bloomfield Public Library to you and your family? 72% of respondents chose extremely important to me and my family. The second part of the question read, in your opinion, how important is Bloomfield Public Library to the town of Bloomfield? 90% chose extremely important to the town of Bloomfield. This is where the library has the most work to do. I want to take a moment here to remind everyone on this Zoom session that library cards are 100% free for all from birth. Please help us spread that message. I can also assure you that Bloomfield Public Library has something of import and value to each and every member of our community. We look forward to having 100% of our community knowing firsthand that the library is extremely important to them and their family, as well as the town of Bloomfield. We have a vibrant and high-performing library system. It is comprised of 3 locations, 2 physical, McMahon, Wittenberry, and Prosser, and 1 virtual, BPL Online, that includes the entirety of our online presence, including our website, electronic resources, online programming, and social media outlets. We look forward to a time in the future when we will not have to contend daily with space constraints and building issues. We hope to have the physical facilities to more fully serve our esteemed public. We've had to change a lot of things during COVID-19, but we are proud to say that we have delivered and continue to deliver. Our current services include curbside delivery, reference services, technology appointments, which includes access to computers, printers, scanners, copiers, and fax machines. You can also borrow laptops and hotspots from the library. Browsing by appointment at both locations, study spaces by appointment. You can email askbplct@gmail.com for printing and reference services, and we will deliver those printout to you at no charge curbside. We have an extensive programming schedule and event calendar. We have tax forms and COVID-19 vaccine information available. You can also laminate your COVID-19 vaccine card for free at both locations, and BPL Online is always open 24/7. Here's a snapshot of our numbers since last March. We have circulated over 100,000 materials. In case you did not know, Bloomfield is a town that loves to read. We've had over 12,000 curbside visits, 120,000 interactions on BPL Online, and 600 virtual programs attended by more than 12,000 people. Our mission statement that we've recently updated reads, Bloomfield Public Library aims to provide all members of our diverse community with access to comprehensive services, expansive print and electronic resources, technology, and expert assistance from a caring and responsive staff. By breaking down barriers to access and opening doors to opportunity, building community, and encouraging lifelong learning, BPL works to improve the quality of life for all of our residents and strives to be the heart of our town. Please know that we want to hear from you. The Library Building Committee just finished up a phone-a-thon where we reached out to 2,000 individuals in District 3 to inform them about the project and to get more feedback to bring back to the Library Building Committee. We have another BPL building project info session this Saturday at McMahon-Wittenberry Library at noon. Please register as we are limited in how many people can attend due to COVID-19. I invite you to keep in touch and to stay informed with your library. Follow us at BPLCT on Facebook and Instagram. Join the Library Building Committee meetings. We meet every other Wednesday and it's open to the public. Get your free library card. Join the library board meetings. We meet the second Tuesday of every month, and they again are free and open to the public. Attend a library program. We have a program for everybody. Visit the Library Building Committee webpage at bplct.org. Call me, call Library Building Committee Chair Greg, call Library Board of Trustees Chair Ava, email me, email Greg, email Ava. And if you have any questions or feedback, here is all of our contact information. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Elizabeth. Next on the program, we are going to hear a presentation from Taisu Kim Partners, Taisu Kim Studios, I apologize, and Whit Englehart.
Hi, thank you. Let me just share my screen. Whoops. Hang on just a moment here. There. Thank you. I want to take you through a little of the history of what we've been working on over the last 6 months with the committee. But first of all, just a little bit about ourselves. As was stated, I'm trying to see why my slide is not moving forward here. And let me just redo this. Apologize. Okay. There. Um, so as Greg indicated, TSKP Studio, we used to be known as Taisu Kim Partners. It's still the same firm, and we have been working in the region in the Northeast for many years, much of it in education and in library work. We have an office in Hartford of about 28 people and another one in Boston. We enjoy doing exciting work and making buildings that work well for their function and for their context and for their people, places that are warm and inviting. And that's really what we strive for in all of our work. A couple projects that you may be familiar with in town, the Wittenberry Early Childhood Magnet School, which we did a few years ago in town. Also at Bloomfield High School, library addition and renovations at that project. We have been involved in libraries for a number of years, new construction, renovation additions, all manner. This was a project for Wilton Public Library. We did a major expansion of it, including creating a multi-purpose performance space, the flexible space for their library. Summers Library, we did a renovation and addition expansion to that building as well, trying to create some warm and inviting spaces inside. We've done a number of projects with Hartford Public Library, one of which was a branch library, the Dwight branch, which is in the Parkville section of town. And this was an addition that really created a presence for the branch library in the neighborhood. It's at an important intersection in the city, creates a very flexible space for use for reading and events throughout the year. At the main library in Hartford, we created what was called the U Media, which is actually a nationally known initiative for teen centers in libraries. And so this is about a 3,000 square foot space for teens, and it has all manner of available technology and tools to allow them to create wonderful things, do crafts, do videos, do recording, do video gaming. And so it's one of the most popular spaces for kids in the library, and it draws them in the afternoon after school very regularly. As Greg alluded to, we are currently just completing the largest branch in Hartford, the Park Street branch, which will be completed this summer, and it's in the Park Street neighborhood, Frog Hollow. And this is a new construction, but it also is honoring the history of the site of the original Lyric Theater that was on that site. So a portion of the building picks up on some of the scale and materials of the building that occupied that site. So coming to your study, our task has been to take the sites that can be identified to investigate and assess each one to see its viability for a library and for the program as it has evolved. When we started last fall, there were three obvious sites to begin with. Certainly the Prosser Library site, which is located here, the town hall site adjacent to it, and then the McMahon Wittenberry branch library over at this part of town. We wanted to be aware and understand, where these are in town, what the dynamics are of the town, where the traffic flows, the bus routes, to get a sense of where should these kind of activities occur in town. And so that was part of our assessment of each of the sites as we looked at them. We also met with the planning department, obtained a list of all of the available properties in town. This was the entire list, and many of them were immediately not applicable. And this was both privately owned as well as some public properties. Out of this list, a certain number of sites, additional sites, were identified to investigate. And so these are the ones that are highlighted from this overall list. So adding those to the group, so here in green are the first sites that we looked at here. There was another site down at the corner of Cottage Grove and Blue Hills Avenue, a vacant site in this area called Cottage Grove Walsh. Another site called Park Brook off of Park Road here. Two other sites were raised with the Wintonbury Mall site, obviously adjacent to Town Center, and another parcel or group of parcels along Seneca Road over to the east of Wintonbury Mall. Two other sites were suggested that a utility company property here, as well as the middle school site in this area. These were fairly immediately eliminated because they had issues with wetlands that really made building on them not viable in any case. So then we went forward with those remaining sites and developed this site selection criteria to help guide our evaluation of each site. So here you have on the left is each of the sites under consideration, where they're located, their acreage, and then some criteria as to, are they publicly owned or do they require purchase? Yes or no. Is there adequate buildable land there to build a building? Yes, or in some cases, due to wetlands, for instance, or other constraints, there really isn't enough space. Is there room for expansion beyond what the current program would be? And do these sites support the development plans for the town? And based on our understanding, the committee's understanding, is this an appropriate location for the library for the long-term future of the town? And then which of these sites do they have particular site challenges? Do they have wetlands? Do they have other geological issues? Do they have traffic issues? All of those elements we were also evaluating. So out of this round of investigation, we determined that sites 4, 5, and 6 really were not going to be viable based on this criteria. And so we and the committee decided to eliminate them from further consideration. That narrowed it down to these 4 sites, the first 3, Prosser, Town Hall, McMahon, Wintonbury, and the Wintonbury Mall. So with these, we looked at some test fitting of a library program onto these sites. I should say, concurrent with this site work, the programming subcommittee was working with the Bergers on developing the program for this library. And that's been a continually evolving program to strike that balance of everything that one could possibly want in a library for the town, balanced against how much can we realistically achieve. So here's first option here is the addition to the existing Prosser library. So here you have the existing Prosser library in purple and a proposed addition wrapping around the rear of it. Here is Washbrook. Based on the town's acquisition of the Riley Lumber property over on the other side, the determination was that this site could provide the majority of the parking for the library with a pedestrian bridge across to connect to the library with this concept. We also looked at building a new building on this Prosser Library site. So this would be demolishing the Prosser Library building, building a new site, a new building on this site, again, connecting by bridge across to the majority of the parking on the other side. In this case, we also were suggesting some parking and handicapped accessible drop off on a lower level, dropping down under the building and coming out the other side. So this is a section through that concept. So if this is the Prosser site, the library would be on 2 levels, starting at approximately at street level. But the lower level would provide some parking and drop off, and you would come up by elevator. But you can see the relationship between this library level and a pedestrian footbridge above Washbrook to the parking on the other side. Then we looked at the town hall site in a couple scenarios. This option is a new freestanding two-story building located facing Bloomfield Avenue, tucked kind of to the side and behind the town hall. It's between the town hall and a wetlands area, which is shown in blue here. So it was somewhat constricted site, but it fit. And this suggested some combined parking for town hall, library, and even the adjacent properties over on Jerome Avenue. Another option was a library connected to the rear of town hall. This was looked at as a three-story option. Again, with the combined parking. I think the sense was that a three-story option may not be viable functionally from a staffing standpoint for the library. And that was one of the disadvantages of this option. And then looking at the McMahon-Wittenberry site, it's a very level site. It extends beyond the existing library. You can just see through here is right there, but it's quite a deep site, this large. And so we tested out if the larger library were to be located here, would it fit? And this diagram shows a two-story library of that approximate size being able to fit here with the parking behind. So that was a possibility. And then we also looked at renovating and adding to the McMahon Library. Here's the existing building in purple, and doing an addition on the front of it, which would help create more of a face for the library to the street. Right now, the building is very dark and recessed from the street. It's sort of recessive in that area. And so it would be great, in addition to getting some additional program space, to give it a little more presence to the street. And finally, the Wittenberry Mall site. This is an intriguing idea of the building has been almost vacant for a number of years. And the concept, all things being equal, of being able to take over a portion of the site and build a new library building that has a face onto the town green, perhaps even outdoor space, plenty of parking, access from both Wittenberry, is an intriguing idea. There are obviously some issues and constraints that limit the viability of that. Now, as we got to this point, we started to look at another way of evaluating each of the sites, which is a cost comparison at a conceptual level. And I just wanted to touch on how project costs are determined. There's three elements to a project cost. Obviously, there's the construction cost. That's the hard cost of constructing the building or any demolition, all the site work and the demolition and abatement of asbestos and hazardous materials, any renovation work. So all the actual construction activity costs is identified as construction cost. And then there's a whole nother group of expenses for a project that are sometimes called soft costs. These are all the other costs that go into a project. Site acquisition, if you have to buy the property, all of the contents of the building, the furniture, fixtures, equipment, AV equipment, computers, all the design fees associated with the design project, other design contingencies, other specialty consultants and testing fees and cost of the owner for moving and relocating for the project. All of these things are soft costs. And so these get added to the construction cost to arrive at what your total project cost will be. And then the third element is the owner's project contingency, which can be determined at whatever is viable. Typically, it's somewhere in the range of 10% of the cost of these other elements. So to arrive at what your total project cost is, you really need to add up A plus B plus C to arrive at your project cost. So taking these test fits and these remaining sites, we looked at those from this standpoint. We had a program area that we used as a target to establish using a cost per square foot based on historical data generally. And then that determined the construction cost This is in millions of dollars. And then using the markups and percentages that typically are a part of these projects, we determine the other costs, the soft costs. In the second row here, you'll note a couple of these have asterisks next to them, which I'll get into in a moment. And then the owner's project contingency added onto that at the end. So that arrived for each of these options at a total project cost down here. So the processor new building option is fairly clean. It's a straight new construction. You have the other costs arrives at this number. The renovation and addition, it's a slightly bigger building because it's less efficient. The way it's laid out and wrapping around it is not as efficient. There are some savings in other aspects of construction, but there are some trade-offs in terms of what one ends up with. Total cost of this 22.9. So actually really quite close to the new construction. With the town hall site, using those same criteria, again, we arrive at numbers around in that range. The asterisk associates with this scenario, if we were to build the library at the town hall site, that means the Prosser library is then left vacant. And so there would be some cost to dispose of the Prosser library site, whether it's mothballing it, protecting it, or trying to prepare it to sell it to another developer. So there's an issue there to include in consideration of that. As we look at the McMahon site, we looked again at both options of building that as the main library in a sense, the larger building there with this option, or doing an addition renovation to that library, which is this option, 6.5 million. Again, if we were to build a new library here, then the Prosser site would be left. And so then there's that question of what do you do with the Prosser site? And then finally, the Wintonbury Mall site. Again, the cost per square foot, the development costs. The issue here is that this property would require acquisition from the developer, as well as the disposition of the Prosser site. And there are so many unknowns related to how this could be developed given the current situation with the current owner, that really was a detriment to it. We also pulled up from the previous library study in 2016, which was for addition renovation to Prosser Library, interpolated that, bringing that up to current 2023 dollars. So it's comparing to the rest of these projects in a similar fashion. And that also comes up into this range. So really the message out of this is not dealing with exactly what the cost of the project is, but trying to compare apples to apples in some systematic way. And in the end, the cost differential between these different options is very similar, very close. And so I think the message is that's not really the criteria for choosing which site is the best. The criteria should be looking at what's appropriate for the town and for the site. So based on that, and in the discussions with the committee, there was a selection of the preferred option. And as Chairman alluded to, the preferred option at this point is to build a new library on the site of the Prosser Library. This indicates the general site, and it has a lot of advantages, certainly in terms of reinforcing the center of town that's been developed here and trying to contribute to that. These little dashed lines kind of indicate general pedestrian circulation from the different areas of the site that can come to here and arrive at this corner that would be able to access the site. The other nice thing about this site, and with the development of the Riley Lumber as the support for it, is there is an opportunity to actually connect with pedestrian linkage up to the Philly Park area up here, either as a part of this project or in the future. So it's a great way to kind of tie all of this together into the network and the fabric of the town. The basic diagrammatic concept, this is by no means a architectural design at this point, but we're testing out the program to see how things fit. This was an initial sketch of how the main level of the library would be positioned on the site. with the bridge connecting across to the parking. You'll notice in red here, this is an overlay of a proposed pair of traffic circles that DOT is considering for these two intersections. We don't know the timing or whether this will actually happen, but we're looking at what the ramifications are for that. And so I think we need to be aware of this and make sure that whatever we design here can accommodate that traffic flow should that happen. As we worked with the programming committee and have massaged program areas, we developed, again, this basic diagram for the library with a large, primary space here facing the center of town, this entrance portico connecting from the bridge and parking, and teen space, children's area in this portion. On this corner of the plan, community room, support space, lobby, cafe, all of which would have the opportunity to be closed off after hours, so that if the rest of the library were closed, this could remain open with its own direct access for events in the evening. And then moving upstairs, you have additional adult reading and stack space. Much of the office library staff is located up here, and groupings of study rooms and small meeting rooms as well. As I said, there would be a lower level, a partial lower level with some parking and handicap space with direct access up by elevator into the building. Looking at the McMahon site, here's the existing building shaded here. And so what we're proposing is an addition overlaid on the front of the building facing Blue Hills Avenue, which is out here. And this would contain space for adult library space, maybe a small cafeteria, some community rooms, and then free up some of the space within the existing library for expanded children's library, teen space, and other support areas for the library staff. At this point, the committee was able to engage Downs Construction to come in and develop some conceptual estimates based on these current concepts. And so this was the estimate that they developed for the Prosser Library new construction and the McMahon Library here. I'm not going to take you through all of this. It's too small to read, but there is a summary. But this basically identifies their estimations of all the cost of the hard construction here and the other associated fees and soft costs below that arrive at the total project cost. This is the summary of that previous slide. The current building size is about 27,800 square feet for the new building at Prosser. For McMahon, the existing building has an addition of almost 2,900 square feet to have a total of about 8,900 square feet of space. Developing the cost from that previous estimate arrives at a total project cost for the new library at 22.6 million, and for the McMahon at 5.9 million. So in a sense, if thinking about these projects as a combined project, it would be those two combined would be what would give the library what it needs going forward for the entire town. I'll note a couple other elements down below here listed under alternates, which have not at this point been priced, but we understand they are a concern of the town going forward, and we'll need to look at further is ways that this new building can be as sustainable as possible. We are required with the building, if we were receiving Connecticut Library funding, that it meet at least the LEED Silver rating for energy efficiency and sustainability, which that would be a given. But there may be opportunities to go further with sustainable measures, possibly adding solar PV to it, or possibly geothermal. Those costs we will look at as options. Obviously, they have some additional costs. They have a upfront premium cost, but it could certainly benefit the project and the town in the long run. So that brings us to where we are in the process overall. We, as I said, we started in about October with our efforts, looking at all of the sites and narrowing down the list and evaluating each one as we went through. This dashed line is the where we currently are at the end of May. Public presentation, here we are right here. And as we move forward, there will be some additional presentations. We will be continuing to develop the sense of what these buildings might be going forward. And then there will be some additional meetings with the town commissions and town councils and finance committee, moving towards the target of a town council approval in June that would allow a letter of intent to the State Library Commission for the grant application by the end of June. And the actual application for the state grant is due before September 1st in August. And then that is submitted to the state. Generally, the notification comes back sometime around November to early December. And the plan at this point is for a referendum on this project in November. So with that, let me turn it over to Greg or to Mark.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Whit. That was very, very helpful and a robust presentation. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mark, who was going to talk about the process going forward. And then following Mark, we'll go into our Q&A. But thank you again. That was very helpful. And I don't know if Mark needs the milestones remaining on the screen or not.
Okay.
No, we're fine without that, Greg. Thank you. So what we've seen so far is a summary of our activities and our progress to date. And I really want to thank all our consultants, TSKP Studios, all this design and site selection as a guidance to this committee. The Burgers, who brought us through the public survey and programming, and Downs Construction, who has really taken the cost estimating to a very high level for what is a conceptual project at this stage. So we're getting there. We're almost there. And I just want to talk about the process going forward from here. Our design professionals are going to keep working on their conceptual designs. We're all very anxious to see their vision. You know, what are these buildings going to look like? And we're going to be seeing that very shortly. And we're all excited about that. Our cost estimators, Dow Construction, are going to continue to refine and finalize this budget as we get down to a final solution. Now, so during that process, we're going to continue to update the town council and all the appropriate town council subcommittees, look for their feedback. Our ultimate goal, as Whit said, is to get the town council approval so that we can proceed to referendum in November. And as also repeated what's said, but I think it's very important, that begins the process for application to the state for their library construction grant. We could be eligible for up to $1 million to assist us with this project. So that town council approval triggers that process. So between now and town council approval for referendum, the library building committee will be seeking input from other town boards and commissions. We want to know what they're thinking. We want to incorporate as much as we can into this project from as many points of view as we can get. So we will be going to the design review board, who is an advisory board for anything that gets built in the Bloomfield Center District. So that would apply to the Prosser Building. We will be meeting with the Conservation, Energy, and Environment Commission, and we will be meeting with the Beautification Committee. And if anybody else out there, if we've missed anybody, please let us know. You know, we want to come and talk to you. Greg and I will come to your meeting and share all this information, but more importantly, hear what you have to say. We're going to reach a design point here in this pre-referendum phase But post-referendum, there's a tremendous amount of design that happens after that as well. We will also be selecting our construction manager so that we will be ready, hopefully with a successful referendum, to hit the ground running with that process. And we will be holding additional information sessions like this one. As Elizabeth mentioned, there's a repeat of this on Saturday at noon at Prosser. And of course, all the library building committee meetings are open to the public. We welcome attendance and comments at those too. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Greg and Elizabeth for your questions and answers.
I just wanted to say that the info session on Saturday is at McMahon Wittenberry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay, Mark. And when we can actually get started with the questions. The first question is, in the Prosser plan, is there somewhere to drop off books without parking and walking across the bridge? And where would handicap parking be? Whit, would you like to answer that?
Sure. The drop off at this point would be on the lower level. You drive in under the building where there's handicap parking, and then you would be able to access into the building to come up or to drop off at that point. So you don't need to park across for handicap parking on the other side of the street.
Whit, do we know how many parking spaces would be under the library?
I believe it was about 15 or so, roughly, I think about 15 spaces.
Okay, the next question is, what is the town of Bloomfield's bonding level available for this project? What is a construction schedule?
Mark?
Would you like me to take that, Greg?
Yes.
So as it stands now, the Finance Committee and our Finance Department, with help of consultants, has identified approximately a number of 30 million as a reasonable bonding capacity at this point. It depends on current debt service as it declines and how it's handled. But in round numbers, that's approximately the number that we've heard to date. And as far as a construction schedule, the design period would occur through most of the year 2022. And bidding could occur late in the year and potentially ideally a spring 2023 start of construction. And we're probably looking at maybe a 16-month or so endeavor for Prosser and something less for the McMahon Wittenberry addition.
Thank you, Mark. The next question is, can we get additional funding from the federal money coming to the state?
Is Nancy Haynes on the call? I thought I saw her. No.
I don't believe so.
Okay. I will take a stab at this and not speak with any certainty, but there is a possibility that there could be some federal funds that will flow to Bloomfield. However, it is something that is a work in process. And if so, we don't know the amount or when it will happen. But obviously, we have to proceed through referendum. And if we're able to get funding, obviously that will be great. But I don't know that that will change the information that's included in the referendum, depending on the timing of any federal funding flowing to the town.
Okay, I think this question is for Whit. Will the elevation change? With the elevation change, is flooding still an issue in the parking areas?
Let me just, with this one diagram, I neglected to mention that flood issue, which is obviously an issue which everyone is familiar with at the Plaza property with the Washbrook. And the flood zone basically is up in the approximately around this 112.5 in this area here. So that's the reason why the building is lifted up and even the entrance and elevator is lifted up slightly on a ramp so that we're just above that flood level. So at the worst case flooding, you might flood some of the parking spaces here, but that would be the extent of it. So we're trying to stay out of the flood zone in this area and lift the building up just clear of that maximum flood elevation.
Thank you, Whit. Okay, another question. Why was the Riley lumber site not considered as a building site?
Richard.
Rashard.
Yes, hi. Good evening, everyone. My name is Richard Sipek. I'm an architect. I'm also a partner with WIT at TSKP Studio. And I've been working on the diagrams that you saw this evening. And I did look at the Riley lumber as a possible building site and had a conversation with the town engineer about flooding. The Riley lumber site is lower than the existing Prosser site. So as Whit described in his cross-section diagram of the Prosser site, it is achievable to get the lower entrance above the floodplain and then raise the building above, one floor above that. We can do that without compromising the floodway. The floodway is the width of the Washbrook if it overflows its banks. And the town engineer agreed that that's a realistic strategy. We cannot interrupt that floodway. The Riley lumber site, unfortunately, is lower, and any structures that are built there could potentially disrupt the floodway. And so consequently, Riley lumber property is not a realistic building site for the library. It's certainly viable for parking, but not for a building. Hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you, Rashard. We do have a hand raised in the audience. B, I think you can unmute yourself.
There you go. I have a couple of questions. The first one is, where would library surfaces be located during the construction? You said it would be about 16 months. So I'm assuming it would be at least that period of time that library services would have to be relocated. And what would be the cost for that temporary relocation? Is that cost figured into the budget of the construction and the whole budget?
Yes, the costs are already built in for acquiring, renting, leasing some alternative space. We don't have a location yet for that. The library staff and board of directors are working on what the needs are for that, but we have accommodated it in the budget. We're well aware that they will have to vacate in order to construct the new building. And that would have happened if we did an addition renovation as well. There wouldn't be the opportunity to stay in the building if we did a addition and renovation.
I also would like to note that during the COVID-19 pandemic, the library had to completely reimagine all services. And I am quite confident that we would be able to have an innovative approach to bridging the gap between during the building project. Did you say you had another question before we go on?
No, that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Our next question is, since 1/3 of the survey responses came from residents ages 65 plus, would you consider making a presentation such as this at Seabury? And the answer is we could consider that. I also would like to remind everybody that this info session is being recorded and we will be sharing that out through our website. And we also have future info sessions planned to keep the community informed about what is going on. Our next question is, how has the transition to expanded digital library services been anticipated in the design? So prior to COVID-19, the library had already identified our online location, BPL Online, as a place for growth. And we are putting a lot of effort into making sure that our online library is robust and easy to use for as many members of our community as possible. We have seen during COVID-19 record-breaking numbers of people visiting us virtually in both our programming spaces, using our online resources to download books, access electronic resources, and participate with and interact with each other virtually. We do anticipate that BPL Online will continue to grow. And as far as how those services has been anticipated in the design, I think we are thinking of a system approach and making sure that our 2 physical locations, in concert with our virtual BPL Online, will be able to provide our 20,000 plus residents with all of the library services they need. And will also allow us to be responsive and intentional as libraries change and adapt to the needs of our residents and as technology expands. I don't know if anybody else wanted to elaborate on that. Okay, our next question is, are you planning to keep some library space open during construction? Is that even possible?
So I think we talked about that. Yes, library services will be available throughout in an alternate location to be determined.
And library staff has already started the process of thinking about those solutions.
I might also just add to that, looking at that, but with the 2 projects that, there was consideration, well, you could shift things to McMahon, say, while you were doing the Prosser Library. But I think the feeling is doing the 2 projects simultaneously, essentially as a single project, would be more economical, less cost overall. So I think that's the incentive to do it that way.
Okay, our next question. How would ongoing functions of Prosser move forward during demolition and construction? I think we've been talking about that a little bit in our previous responses, so let us know if there's any other questions in regards to that. The next question is, so will the Riley site parking be flooded, and how will you deal with this? Is the parking elevated? I think we also answered that question. The next question is, have we considered the old Schechter School on Gab Road as a temporary library location? No, but we can. Library staff will be looking, and the library board will be looking at a whole bunch of possibilities for how to make sure that we maintain services during the construction phase of our future. And as I stated previously, with the COVID-19 shutdown, Bloomfield Public Library was the only library I know of in the state to maintain services throughout COVID-19. And we plan on maintaining services in the future as well. So I can assure you that we will continue to serve our public effectively throughout the construction project.
Elizabeth, if I might add, I know there's been some discussion of Winterberry Mall as a possible location. There's a lot of open space there. I mean, nothing definite, but that could be a temporary housing site for the library.
So that wraps up the questions that were in the chat box. If anybody has an additional question, please feel free to add it or to raise your hand. And please note that if you have a question and you do not ask it today or you come up with it later, we invite you to all of our library building committee meetings, to our library board meetings, and to reach out to myself, to Greg, or to Ava. We look forward to continuing this conversation and being responsive to the questions that come up.
Okay. All right. Again, thank everyone for coming out tonight. Thank everyone on our panel. This has been a great conversation. And again, this is just the beginning of what we quote unquote call our road show. And we will be looking for the public support throughout the summer to get this through referendum. And if anyone is interested, and we are hoping to organize an event which we are calling the Vote Yes campaign. We would like to have some people volunteer to help us with that. So if you're interested, please contact Elizabeth, the library, or reach out to me. But that would be very helpful. And again, I don't want to end this meeting without thanking our library building committee and the library staff who've been working tirelessly on this project. And it means a lot, and we're all vested. And thank you all for coming out and supporting us. Thank you.